Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Make yourself at home, wherever you are. Maybe you're wrapped up warm on a couch, or maybe you're commuting. I'd love to know where you're watching or listening from. And if you enjoy this, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. The year is 1347. You wake up in the middle of a medieval winter. It's not a gentle awakening. Your first sensation is the deep, unforgiving cold. It's not just on your skin, it's in your bones. You lie on a narrow, hard cot in a guardhouse, or maybe just a recessed alcove in the castle wall. The rough wool blanket does little. You pull it closer, but the chill has already seeped into you. You can smell the damp earth and aged stone, a heavy, metallic scent mingling with stale straw and the faint, persistent tang of wood smoke in unwashed bodies. Your eyes flutter open to a darkness so profound, it takes a moment to even register the faint outlines of the stone around you. Your breath plumes in a tiny cloud, visible only because a sliver of weak moonlight filters through a high, unglazed slit in the wall, painting a ghostly stripe across the floor. You push yourself up, your muscles protesting with a dull ache. Every movement feels stiff, like your joints are packed with ice. Your fingers are numb as you reach for the thick tunic and crude leather jerkin waiting for you. They're as cold as everything else, a shock against your already frigid skin. You shiver, a deep tremor that starts in your core and rattles through you. This isn't just the weather, it's the bite of the stone wall itself, a constant draining cold that never truly leaves you. It's what you live with, what you become. You stamp your feet on the hard, packed earth floor, trying to bring some feeling back to your toes. You glance across the small, shared space. Another guard, a hunched shape in the gloom, is already pulling on his boots, his grunts muffled by the cold air. You both know what's coming. Another long watch on the battlements, exposed to the cruel wind that whips around these ancient stones. You pick up your spear, the wood smooth and icy beneath your palm. It's not just a weapon, it's a cold, heavy truth in your hand. You step out into the hallway, the air instantly colder, carrying the faint, distant howls of something wild out in the frozen forest beyond the castle walls. You try to imagine warmth, but it feels like a memory from another life, a luxury you can barely recall. This is simply existence now, battling the cold, minute by minute until morning light. And you know, deep down, that the cold is just the beginning of what this night might ask of you. You step onto the battlement walkway, the wind immediately biting at any exposed skin. It's a cruel companion out here, a constant howling presence that usually serves to mask all other sounds. But tonight, something is different. You grip your spear tighter, the rough wood now feeling almost warm from the slight effort. The wind isn't gone, not entirely. You can feel its relentless push against your body, hear its low moan as it scrapes across the stone turrets. But the usual symphony of the night is missing. The distant calls of night birds, the rustle of the bare branches of the forest below, even the creaking of the gatehouse timbers in a strong gust, they've all vanished. It's as if a great invisible hand has pressed down on the world, muffling everything. You strain your ears, leaning slightly over the parapet, feeling the gritty stone against your cheek. Nothing. Only the hollow, drawn-out sigh of the wind, now strangely distinct because it carries no other company. It's an unnerving vacuum, a silence that feels heavier, more ominous than any noise. You glance at the other guard, a few paces down the wall. He's stopped too, his posture rigid, his head cocked, listening. You can see the slight tension in his shoulders, the way he holds his breath. He turns his head slowly towards you, his eyes wide and dark in the dim light cast by a distant, flickering torch. There's no need for words. The question in his gaze mirrors your own growing unease. This isn't the familiar, comforting hush of a quiet night. This is a silence that screams. It's the kind of quiet that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end, a primal alarm bell ringing in the back of your mind. You take a slow, deliberate breath, trying to calm the sudden thudding in your chest. The air itself feels thin, stretched, as if sound itself has been sucked out of the world. Every minor sound you make, the scuff of your boot on the stone, the soft rasp of your breathing, seems amplified, jarring in this profound absence. Your own presence feels too loud, too vulnerable. You feel exposed, not to an enemy you can see, but to something formless, something that thrives in this chilling, unnatural quiet. In this stark quiet, your mind starts to play tricks. Every shadow seems to deepen, to lengthen, to twist into unfamiliar shapes. The silence isn't peaceful. It's a suffocating blanket, pressing down, urging you to believe that something terrible is about to break it. You instinctively reach for the small, iron crucifix hidden beneath your jerkin, its cold metal a small comfort against the chilling dread that has settled in your gut. It reminds you that sometimes the absence of something can be far more terrifying than its presence. And in this silence you realize you're listening not for what's there, but for what isn't, and that's the truly frightening part. The unnerving quiet of the night finally shatters. A deafening clang erupts from the bell tower, a single sharp strike that vibrates through the very stone beneath your feet. It rips through the heavy silence like a physical blow, making you jump, your heart hammering against your ribs. It's the morning bell, the signal for the changing of the guard, but it sounds wrong. It's too loud, too sudden, too urgent. You wince, shaking your head to clear the ringing in your ears. The other guard next to you flinches too, his hand flying to his chest. He shoots you a look that's a mix of relief and lingering apprehension. The bell signifies the end of your watch, the promise of warmth and a meager breakfast. But the suddenness of it after the suffocating silence leaves a sour taste in your mouth. It feels less like a welcome sound and more like an alarm. The light is still thin, a pale gray smear bleeding over the eastern horizon, just enough to reveal the icy sheen on the stone battlements. As you begin your slow descent down the winding stone stairs, each step echoes in the newly broken, yet still tense, air. The cold is still there, gnawing at your fingers and toes, but the adrenaline from the night's eerie silence keeps you moving. You can hear other guards stirring now, the distant clatter of pots from the kitchen, the low murmur of voices from the barracks. The castle is waking, slowly, grudgingly, but there's an unusual undercurrent to it all. The usual boisterous jokes and complaints of the changing watch are absent. Instead, a hushed tension hangs in the air, a silent agreement that something happened out there, even if no one can name it. As you pass through the courtyard, a few other guards are already gathered near the well, their faces drawn and pale in the dim light. They share the same weary, haunted look you feel reflected in your own eyes. One man, normally boisterous, just stares blankly at the ground, occasionally shaking his head almost imperceptibly. No one speaks of the silence, not directly. It's an unspoken weight, a shared burden that you all carry from the dark hours. You reach the mess hall. The smell of damp straw and weak stew, a familiar, if not entirely inviting, aroma. You find your usual spot, sliding onto the hard wooden bench. The warmth from the central hearth is a blessing, a slow thaw creeping into your frozen limbs. But even here, the conversations are subdued, hushed. You try to eat, but the food feels like ash in your mouth. The bell may have rung, but the quiet hasn't truly left you. It's inside your head now, a lingering echo that promises it might return, and with it, something else you're not ready for. The morning bell might signal daybreak, but some nights, the darkness clings, refusing to fully retreat with the sun. You finally found a moment of respite. The rough woolen blanket in your bunk, usually a meager defense against the cold, now feels almost luxurious as the lingering chill from the battlements slowly recedes. The exhaustion from the long watch, combined with the strange events of the night, pulls at your eyelids. You close your eyes, trying to chase away the images of the oppressive silence, hoping for a few hours of dreamless sleep before duty calls again. Just as you begin to drift, a sound pierces the dull roar of the waking castle. It's faint, at first, almost imperceptible over the clatter of distant pots and the low grumble of men. But then it clarifies, pulling you sharply back to full awareness. It's a melody, a low, drawn-out hum, repetitive and soft, like a child's lullaby. It shouldn't be there. Not in this place, not at this hour. You push yourself up, leaning on an elbow, your breath catching in your throat. You strain your ears, trying to locate its origin. The sound seems to filter through the thick stone walls, a ghostly resonance that sets your teeth on edge. It's coming from the North Tower. Your gut clenches. Everyone knows the North Tower. It's been empty for years, sealed off after things no one talks about. Its upper levels are collapsed, its lower chambers barren and dark. No one goes there. No one lives there. The humming continues, a mournful, undulating cadence that is both oddly comforting and utterly terrifying. It's too steady, too perfect for the random creaks of an old building. It's a sound that suggests intent, a presence. You glance around the barracks. A few other guards are stirring, their eyes wide, their faces etched with the same dawning horror you feel. They've heard it too. One man pulls his blanket tighter around him, shrinking back against the wall, his gaze fixed on nothing, his mouth slightly agape. Another sits bolt upright, his hand instinctively reaching for the hilt of his dagger, even though he knows no earthly foe would sing like that from an empty tower. The sound is not loud, not threatening, but its softness is what makes it so unnerving. It's meant to soothe, but in this context it feels like a sinister invitation. It's a tune without a source, a song without a singer, emanating from a place that should be devoid of life. You feel a prickling sensation on your skin, a shiver that has nothing to do with the cold. This isn't the silence of the night, nor the jarring clang of a bell. This is something else entirely, a whisper of the impossible. And as the unnerving melody drifts through the cold gray dawn, you realize that some secrets aren't buried in silence, but sung in the most disturbing lullabies. The morning has passed, dragging its heavy feet across the castle. The unsettling lullaby from the North Tower faded with the rising sun, leaving behind an even deeper chill than the winter air. Now you're back at your duties. The mundane rhythm of castle life, a jarring contrast to the ghostly echoes still rattling in your mind. It's midday, and a sense of deep, gnawing hunger starts to set in. You find yourself in the small, crowded space designated for the midday meal. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, sweat, and something vaguely stew-like that's been simmering all morning. The taste of survival, you think, isn't always pleasant, but it's essential. You reach for a chunk of coarse, dark bread, tearing at it with your teeth. It's hard, almost stale, and leaves a dry, slightly bitter taste on your tongue. Every bite requires effort, a testament to the tough grains it's made from. You chew slowly, your jaw aching slightly. The bread is dense, filling, and provides a much-needed ballast against the hollowness in your stomach. As you swallow, you feel the rough texture scrape down your throat. It's not a meal to savor, but one to consume, to fuel the body against the constant demands of cold and duty. You wash it down with a mouthful of thin, weak ale from a dented pewter mug. It's sour and watery, a far cry from the rich brews of the Lord's table, but it's enough to cut through the dry bread and momentarily numb the lingering unease. Around you, other guards eat with the same silent, efficient urgency. There's no chatter, no jokes. The only sounds are the rhythmic chewing, the clink of metal against wood, and the occasional sigh of a man weary to his bones. You can feel the grit of the rough bread on your teeth, the dull ache in your muscles from the morning's chores, the persistent chill that seems to cling to you, no matter how close you get to the hearth. This isn't about pleasure. It's about endurance. Each mouthful, each swallow, is a small victory against the elements, against fatigue, against the gnawing fear that sometimes creeps in during the long watches. You taste the earthiness of the grain, the faint bitterness of the fermenting hops in the ale, and you realize these are the flavors of your existence. They're not delicate or refined, but robust, resilient. They speak of hard labor, of scarcity, of a relentless battle against a world that offers little comfort. And as you finish the last crumb, wiping your mouth with the back of your hand, you understand that survival isn't just about breathing. It's about finding strength in the simplest, toughest things and pushing through, one gritty bite at a time. The long afternoon eventually bleeds into evening, bringing with it the familiar clatter and hum of preparations for the Lord's evening meal. For you, it means another watch, not on the cold battlements this time, but within the castle walls, patrolling the drafty corridors, ever vigilant. As you make your rounds, the smells of the feast begin to seep out from the great hall, a stark contrast to the coarse bread you gnawed earlier. You pass the heavy oak doors of the great hall, and a wave of rich, unfamiliar aromas washes over you. Roasting meats, boar perhaps, or venison, savory herbs, and the sweet, cloying scent of spiced wine. It's a powerful, almost overwhelming assault on your senses, a world away from the bland, gritty taste of your own meals. You can hear the distant clinking of goblets, the rise and fall of aristocratic voices, punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter. It's a sound that highlights the invisible barrier between you and them, a reminder of the chasm between your existence and theirs. You stop for a moment, pressing your ear against the cold stone wall, trying to discern snippets of conversation. All you catch are muffled sounds, joyous and carefree. You imagine the tables laden with glistening pastries, rich sauces, and fine cheeses, a spectacle of abundance you rarely, if ever, experience firsthand. It's a fleeting fantasy, a tantalizing glimpse into a world of comfort and excess. But then, as you turn to continue your patrol, a shiver runs down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold stone. A low, soft sound, barely audible beneath the revelry, reaches you. It's not a hum this time, but a faint, almost imperceptible thump. It comes from above, from the direction of the North Tower, where the lullaby had echoed just hours before. The sound is like something heavy, yet soft, falling against stone. Not the loud crash of a falling timber, but something more deliberate. You freeze, your senses now hyper-alert, all thoughts of the feast vanishing. You look up, as if you could see through the thick ceiling and several floors of stone. No one else seems to have heard it. The laughter from the great hall continues, oblivious. You strain your ears again. Nothing. Just the distant echoes of mirth, now feeling hollow, almost mocking. The contrast is jarring, the vibrant celebration of life and luxury within the great hall, and the chilling, inexplicable sounds from the empty, cursed tower. It's a harsh juxtaposition that makes the hair on your arms stand on end. You're reminded that while the Lord feasts, oblivious, a darker, more ancient presence lurks within these walls, offering omens instead of joy. And as you resume your patrol, the scent of roast meat suddenly turns sickly sweet, a taste of something rotten beneath the surface of the castle's grand facade. You realize that sometimes the greatest dangers aren't the ones you can see, but the ones that hide just beyond the edge of human understanding, offering their chilling omens amidst the sounds of merriment. The night has deepened, the castle's revelry now a distant, muted drone. Your patrol shifts to the lower levels, the older, less used passages where the air is heavier and the shadows cling stubbornly. You've been assigned a full suit of chainmail tonight, a heavier burden than your usual jerkin. The cold, hard rings settle on your shoulders, a familiar weight, yet today it feels different. Every step you take sends a soft, metallic whisper through the silence. The chainmail chafes against your rough wool tunic, a constant, abrasive whisper of steel on fabric. You can feel the individual rings pressing into your skin, cold and unyielding, leaving faint impressions on your shoulders and arms. It's a protection, yes, but also a relentless reminder of the harshness of your duty. Each movement is accompanied by a subtle rasp, a soft, scraping sound that becomes the soundtrack to your solitary patrol. The weight of it feels oppressive tonight. It's not just the physical burden. It's the weight of what you've heard, what you suspect. The unnatural silence, the ghostly lullaby, the soft thump from the empty tower. They all press down on you, adding an invisible, spiritual heft to the metal on your body. You find yourself adjusting the mail constantly, trying to alleviate the nagging pressure, but it's no use. The chafing continues, a relentless whisper against your skin, mirroring the relentless whisper of doubt and fear in your mind. You walk past ancient tapestries that hang heavy with dust, their colors faded to dull browns and grays. In the flickering torchlight, their woven figures seem to stir, their eyes following you. The air grows colder here, carrying the faint, earthy scent of centuries-old stone and forgotten secrets. The metallic murmur of your chainmail seems to amplify, each link a tiny voice, scraping and scratching, a constant reminder of your vulnerability despite the armor. It's an endless cycle of discomfort, the cold stone against your feet, the biting draft finding every gap in your clothing, and now, the unceasing rub of the mail. You try to focus on the sounds outside, the distant howl of the wind, the occasional creak of timber, but the internal rhythm of the chainmail dominates. It's not just a physical sensation. It's a feeling of being trapped, encased, burdened not only by steel, but by the unspoken dread that permeates these old walls. You pause at a narrow archway, peering into the deeper gloom. The rasping sound stops with you, leaving an uncomfortable silence, like a missing heartbeat. You realize that the chafing isn't just external. It's a feeling of conscience, of something wrong that you can't quite grasp, something that rubs at your sense of peace. The chainmail is meant to keep you safe, but tonight, it only seems to chafe at the edges of your sanity, a heavy, cold shroud against a fear you can't fight with steel. This isn't just about the weight of armor. It's about the invisible weights that cling to you, day and night, in this castle full of shadows. The chafing of your chainmail has become a dull, background hum as you navigate the castle's deserted lower passages. The air here is stagnant, heavy with the scent of damp stone and a faint, sweet decay that clings to the shadows. You're deep within the oldest parts of the fortress, far from the warmth and light of the great hall, where the revelry still echoes faintly. You turn a corner, the torch in your hand casting long, dancing shadows that seem to stretch and contort into grotesque shapes. Your breath plumes, a stark white cloud in the frigid air. The cold here is profound, a deeper, more pervasive chill than you've felt anywhere else in the castle, a cold that seeps into your very marrow. It's the kind of cold that feels unnatural, as if it carries a memory of something long dead. As you pass an alcove, a sudden, sharp drop in temperature hits you. It's not just a draft. It's an intense, localized pocket of absolute frigidity that feels like plunging your hand into a winter river. The tiny hairs on your arms stand on end, not from fear, but from the sheer shock of the cold. You instinctively stop, your gaze sweeping the inky blackness of the alcove, your heart now thudding in anxious rhythm against your ribs. You hold your torch higher, its feeble light struggling to penetrate the gloom. There's nothing there. No open window, no crumbling wall. Just rough, ancient stone, darker than usual, as if it's absorbed all warmth and light over centuries. You take a cautious step closer, trying to discern a source for the sudden, oppressive cold. Your skin prickles, a shiver running down your spine that feels like an external touch, not just an internal reaction. Then you feel it. A distinct, icy pressure against the back of your neck. It's not the wind, not a draft. It's a point of contact, as cold and real as if someone had pressed a block of ice against your skin. You gasp, a choked sound caught in your throat, and spin around, spear raised, eyes wide, frantically searching the emptiness behind you. Nothing. There is absolutely no one there. The passage is empty, save for your own terrified presence. But the sensation lingers, a phantom chill on your skin, the memory of an impossible, freezing touch. You feel a wave of nausea, your stomach twisting with a primal fear. This isn't the cold of winter, or the dampness of stone. This is something else, something without form or substance, yet undeniably real. It's the icy touch of an unseen hand, a ghostly caress that leaves you breathless, exposed, and suddenly terribly aware that you are not alone in these ancient, haunted halls. And for the first time, you truly understand why the old guards prayed not to see a ghost, because sometimes you don't need to see it to feel its terrifying presence. You stumble away from the empty alcove, your heart still pounding. The phantom chill on your neck, a persistent, terrible memory. The lower passages now feel less like a patrol route and more like a claustrophobic trap. You need air, open space, anything to dispel the feeling of unseen eyes and icy touches. Your torch flickers wildly, casting chaotic shadows that leap and dance like malevolent spirits. You push on, forcing yourself to move, the metallic rasp of your chainmail now an irritating echo of your own panicked breathing. You ascend a narrow, winding set of stairs, eager to reach the relative familiarity of the castle's exterior. Finally, you push open a heavy wooden door, stepping out into the crisp, cold night air of the lower ward. You take a deep, desperate gulp of air, hoping to clear your head, to wash away the lingering dread. Instead, your lungs are assaulted by a sudden, potent stench. It's an overpowering, sickening combination of smells you know all too well from your daily duties. But tonight, it's intensified, almost suffocating. You gag, a sour taste rising in the back of your throat. This isn't the clean, cold smell of winter. This is the reek of humanity at its most squalid. You recognize the layers of odors. The acrid tang of uncleaned latrines from the nearby cesspit. A heavy, sickly sweet aroma of rotting food waste tossed from the kitchen. And, underlying it all, the persistent, cloying smell of unwashed livestock from the stables. It's a thick, almost palpable haze of decay and filth that seems to cling to the very air, pressing in on you. The ground beneath your boots is uneven, slick with mud and something indefinable, something you'd rather not identify in the dim light. You pinch your nose, trying to breathe shallowly, but the stench still permeates everything, coating the inside of your mouth, making your eyes water. It's a stark reminder of the harsh realities of castle life, a world where the beautiful and the brutal coexist, where fine feasts are only a few feet away from putrid waste. But tonight, this familiar stench feels different. It feels heavier, somehow more sinister, as if it's been waiting for you, a physical manifestation of the decay that seems to be creeping into every corner of the castle. You look around the dimly lit ward. The stable hands are long asleep, the animals restless in their pens. Shadows stretch long and deep, hiding whatever detritus lies scattered across the ground. The very air feels thick with invisible grime. This isn't just a place of work. It's a place of forgotten things, discarded things, things that are slowly, inexorably falling apart. And as the stench fills your nostrils, you realize that the decay here isn't just physical. It's a symbol, a foul, visceral warning that something deeper, something far more insidious, is festering within the ancient stones of this castle. The smell of the lower ward is the smell of a secret too long kept, slowly rotting from the inside out. The reek of the lower ward still clings to you, a physical weight in the cold night air. You've moved away from the main cesspit, but the pervasive scent of neglect and waste seems to follow you, a grim companion. Your boots sink slightly into the soft, muddy ground, the cold, squelching sensation a further assault on your senses. You pick your way carefully, your torchlight doing little to reveal the true depth of the muck. As you navigate the uneven terrain, a faint murmur catches your ear, barely audible over the distant hum of the feast, and the occasional snort from a restless horse. It's not a ghost's lullaby this time, but something far more terrestrial, far more dangerous. It's the hushed, urgent tones of human voices, low and conspiratorial, drifting from the shadowy recess behind the stable master's hut. You stop dead, instinctively dousing your torch, plunging yourself into near total darkness. Your heart quickens. The cold, wet mud seeps into your boots, but you barely notice. You press yourself against the rough stone wall of the stables, straining your ears, trying to make sense of the hushed whispers. The air is thick with a foul stench, but now a new, more unsettling odor seems to mingle with it. The smell of treachery. You can't make out specific words, but the tone is unmistakable. Two voices, low and furtive, speaking in rapid, clipped tones. They pause, then resume, their whispers punctuated by sharp, nervous gestures you can just glimpse in the deepest shadows. One of the figures, cloaked and hooded, makes a swift, decisive movement with their hand, as if passing something small and heavy. A glint of metal, barely caught by a stray sliver of moonlight, flashes in the dark. Your mind races. This isn't just idle gossip. The secrecy, the location, the late hour. It all screams of something illicit, something dangerous. You feel a knot tighten in your stomach. A chilling realization that the decay you smelled earlier isn't just about waste. It's about the rot of loyalty, the corruption of trust. These whispers in the mud, in this forgotten, reeking corner of the castle, carry a weight far heavier than any ghostly apparition. You press closer to the wall, trying to become one with the shadows, hardly daring to breathe. The cold mud feels like a clammy hand gripping your ankles. The voices fade slightly, then grow distant, as the figures presumably move away. You wait, utterly still, for several long moments, until the silence returns, broken only by the uneasy stirrings of the animals and the rhythmic drip of water from a leaky gutter. The castle's dark secret isn't just about ghosts, you realize. It's about the living, about the festering betrayals that lurk in the grimiest corners, whispered in the mud and hidden by the night, far from the Lord's watchful eye. And, with a dreadful certainty that this kind of secret can be far more dangerous than any phantom. The chill of the lower ward and the unsettling whispers you overheard have pushed you back inside the castle walls, seeking not warmth, but perhaps a different kind of distraction. You pick up your relit torch, the flame dancing nervously in the cold air, and continue your patrol through the inner corridors. The sounds of the feast have long faded, replaced by the hushed quiet of a sleeping castle, a quiet that feels more precarious after your last encounter. As you pass the cramped, unlit quarters reserved for some of the castle's lowest servants and retainers, a new sound cuts through the silence. It's a wet, rasping noise, a desperate, struggling intake of air, followed by a wheezing exhale. You pause, your blood running cold. It's the sound of someone fighting for breath, a deep, rattling cough that seems to tear at the lungs. You instinctively press your ear against the rough wooden door, its surface cold and splintered beneath your palm. The sounds intensify. A sharp gasp, then a long, agonizing rattle, like stones tumbling in a dry well, followed by another choked cough. You can hear the desperate struggle, the sheer effort required for each breath. It's a sound that speaks of sickness, of a body failing, wrestling with some invisible assailant. The stench of the lower ward had been repulsive, but this sound is far more visceral, far more disturbing. It's the raw, undeniable sound of suffering, and it fills the narrow corridor with a palpable sense of dread. You can practically taste the sickness in the air, a metallic, feverish tang that seems to seep through the cracks in the door. You hear a low moan, barely audible, then another bout of that horrible, rattling breath. It's a sound that pulls at something deep inside you, a primitive fear of contagion, of helplessness. You imagine the sick man, alone in the dark, his body racked with fever, his lungs struggling against an unseen burden. You feel a sudden surge of cold fear, remembering the touch on your neck, the hum from the tower, the whispers in the mud. Could this sickness be connected? Is it another symptom of the castle's hidden rot? You pull away from the door, your hand trembling slightly. There's nothing you can do. You're a guard, not a healer. Your duty is to patrol, to protect, not to intervene in the private misery of a dying man. But the sound clings to you, a tormenting echo in your mind. The rattle of a sick man's breath, so fragile, so agonizing, serves as a grim reminder that life in these times is always on the edge, always precarious. And in this castle, it feels like an omen, a premonition that the unseen horrors are not just spiritual, but physical, spreading their insidious grasp, silently, terribly, through the very air you breathe. The sound of the sick man's ragged breath fades behind you, replaced by the persistent echo of your own footsteps on the cold stone. You carry the weight of that sound, a heavy, unsettling companion, as you continue your patrol through the castle's upper floors, past the silent, heavy doors of the Lord's private chambers. The air here is cleaner, less polluted by the common realities of castle life, but it offers little comfort. The chill still permeates everything, a cold that seems to burrow into your very soul. You are about to turn down another long corridor when you see her. At the very end of the passage, where a sliver of moonlight filters through a high arched window, a figure stands. She's tall, slender, draped in what appears to be a gown of flowing white linen, almost luminous in the gloom. Your breath catches in your throat, your heart leaping into a panicked rhythm. You freeze, your hand instinctively tightening around the cold, rough wood of your spear. She is perfectly still, facing away from you, gazing out into the blackness of the courtyard below. The long white fabric ripples almost imperceptibly, as if stirred by a phantom breeze that doesn't reach you. Her posture is one of profound sorrow, a silent vigil against the night. You can't see her face, but you feel the weight of her presence, an aura of intense, palpable grief that chills you even more than the winter air. This is not the icy touch of an unseen hand, not the terrifying silence, nor the unsettling lullaby. This is something else entirely, a quiet, sorrowful apparition, a figure of pure, ethereal sadness. You know the stories, the hushed whispers among the older guards about the lady in white, a specter said to roam these halls, forever mourning a lost love, a betrayed promise. And now, here she is, a silent testament to the castle's long, dark history. You want to run, to shout, to dispel the chilling illusion, but you can't move. You are rooted to the spot, caught in the spell of her grief. Her presence is a stark, visual manifestation of all the unseen horrors you felt tonight, a silent confirmation that this castle holds more than just stone and mortar. She turns her head, very slowly as if sensing your terrified gaze. You don't see her features clearly, only the faint outline of a face, indistinct and shadowed, but you feel the profound sadness emanating from her, a sorrow so deep it feels like a physical ache in your own chest. A profound, bone-deep cold washes over you, but it's different from the relentless bite of the stone walls. This is a cold comfort, the chill of a shared, ancient sorrow, a realization that some pain transcends life itself. And as you stand there transfixed, you understand. The old guards prayed not to see a ghost, because to see one, like this lady in white, is to witness the enduring, heartbreaking weight of the castle's dark secret, a truth far more devastating than any mere physical threat. It's to feel, for a moment, the eternal ache of a history you can never escape. The lady in white fades, melting back into the shadows, leaving behind an unbearable chill and a profound sense of melancholy. You stand there shaking, your spear feeling useless against such ethereal grief. The sight has drained you, leaving you colder and more terrified than any physical threat. You force yourself to move, to complete your patrol, to shake off the lingering sorrow of a ghost. As you descend back towards the ground floor, your senses, already frayed from the night's encounters, are assaulted by a new, sharp smell. It's distinct, unmistakable, cutting through the damp stone and stale air like a knife. It's the metallic tang of blood, fresh and potent, mingling with the acrid scent of fear. Your heart leaps into your throat, a sudden surge of adrenaline overriding the lingering terror of the ghost. This is a real danger, a physical threat, you understand. You quicken your pace, your chainmail rasping a frantic rhythm against your tunic. The smell grows stronger, almost coppery, as you approach the narrow corridor leading to the castle's armory and prison cells. It's a place rarely visited at this hour, typically quiet and cold. But now, an ominous stillness hangs in the air, a silence more tense and foreboding than the one you experienced on the battlements. This is the quiet before a storm. You grip your spear tighter, your knuckles white. Every shadow seems to lengthen, to deepen, to hide something terrible. You can almost taste the metallic scent on your tongue, a bitter, rusty flavor that churns your stomach. It's the smell of violence, of injury, of life spilling out onto cold stone. Your training kicks in, pushing aside the supernatural dread, focusing your mind on immediate earthly peril. This is what you were trained for, what your armor is meant to protect against. You round the corner, your torch held high, casting a harsh, flickering light into the gloom. The scene that greets you is bathed in shadow and flickering orange. You see a dark, spreading stain on the flagstones near the heavy iron door of a cell. The air here is thick with a coppery scent, almost suffocating. Your eyes dart around, searching for a source, for an attacker, for a victim. There's a figure slumped against the cell door, a guard, his form indistinct in the wavering light. You can't tell if he's alive, if he's breathing. The metallic smell here is overwhelming, a visceral punch to the gut. This is the culmination of all the night's unsettling omens, the grim reality beneath the ghostly whispers and silent fears. You realize with a chilling certainty that the castle's dark secret isn't just about ancient sorrow or hidden conspiracies. It's about a present, violent truth, a reality that smells of blood and warns of impending death. And you know, as you step closer, that you're no longer just patrolling. You've stumbled into the heart of the secret itself. You rush forward, your boots slipping slightly on the slick flagstones, the metallic smell of blood filling your nostrils. You reach the slumped guard, dropping to a knee, your torch illuminating a pale, still face. He's one of the older men, a veteran named Thomas, usually quiet, always reliable. His eyes are wide, staring blankly, and a dark, spreading stain blossoms on his tunic. He's gone. A dagger lies nearby, glinting dully in the torchlight. A chilling realization hits you. This isn't random, this is targeted. You scan the corridor frantically, your spear now feeling too heavy, too slow. Where is the killer? Has he fled? Is he still here, hiding in the impenetrable shadows? The silence is absolute now, pressing down on you, broken only by your own ragged breathing. You can hear your heart hammering in your ears, a frantic drumbeat against the overwhelming silence. Just then, a faint moan draws your attention to the cell door. It's slightly ajar. You push it open cautiously with the tip of your spear, your body tense, ready for a fight. Inside, huddled in a corner, is a prisoner, barely visible in the gloom. He's old, frail, his eyes wide with terror, but alive. He shrinks back as you enter, clutching his threadbare clothes to his chest. He points a trembling finger past you, towards the corridor, then back towards the higher levels of the castle. His lips move, forming words you can't quite hear. You lean closer, trying to make sense of his desperate whispers. His voice is a thin, reedy rasp, full of fear. He talks of shadows, of a blur of movement, of a swift, silent attack. He gestures frantically towards the North Tower, his eyes wide with a terror that eclipses even the fear of his own imprisonment. He speaks of them, a chilling plural, a clandestine presence moving through the castle, and he mentions the old siege. His words are disjointed, fragmented, but a vivid picture begins to form in your mind. He's speaking of a time long past, a bloody siege where betrayal ran rampant within these very walls. You remember the old tales, hushed among the guards, of a garrison betrayed from within, of a bloody massacre in these same corridors. He describes figures cloaked in black, moving with unnatural speed, their blades glinting in the dark. He speaks of loyalty bought and sold, of a secret pact that allowed the enemy to breach the castle's defenses. And then, with a terrified gasp, he mentions the lady. Not the lady of this castle, but a different lady. A ghost-like figure who wandered the walls, a symbol of the betrayal. You recall the lady in white, and a terrifying link connects the present violence with ancient sorrow. The prisoner's eyes dart to the North Tower, a place tied to both the lullaby and the ghost. His frantic gestures towards the upper levels and the deserted tower combine with his story of treachery and the bloody siege. This isn't just a murder. It's a reawakening, a grim echo of a past event. The metallic smell of blood, you realize, isn't just about Thomas. It's about a history of violence that has returned, a dark secret that has festered and now demands to be seen. You are standing in the middle of a recurring nightmare, and the castle, it seems, is bleeding its past into the present. You've reported the grim discovery of Thomas. The whispers have flown, hushed and frantic, through the castle's waking hours. Now your duty brings you, once again, to the great hall, though the revelry of the night before has given way to a nervous undercurrent. The air here is no longer filled with the sharp sense of a feast, but with the heavy, acrid smell of wood smoke, thick and clinging. Torches in sconces along the walls and the central hearth struggle to warm the vast space, but mostly they just contribute to the haze. You push through the heavy doors, and the smoke immediately assaults your senses. It's not a gentle haze. It's a swirling, impenetrable curtain that catches in your throat, making your eyes water. You blink rapidly, trying to clear your vision, but the smoke dances and eddies, twisting familiar faces into indistinct blurs, transforming solid objects into shifting shadows. The taste of ash is on your tongue, bitter and dry. You move slowly through the hall, your chainmail, a muted clink beneath the heavy pall. Your eyes strain, darting from face to face, trying to pierce the veil of gray. Every figure you pass is partially obscured, a silhouette against a distant flickering light, a face momentarily clear before being swallowed by the swirling smoke. You feel a prickle of unease. This isn't just about poor ventilation. It's about what the smoke hides. You scan the tables, where a few of the Lord's closest advisors and knights still linger, their expressions grave, their voices are hushed, their gestures sharp and anxious. You can see their eyes, red-rimmed and wary, constantly darting around the room, as if expecting something to materialize from the haze. No one looks relaxed. The feast's joy has evaporated, leaving behind a cold, hard suspicion. The smoke becomes a living thing, a shifting entity that plays tricks on your sight. You think you see a familiar cloak vanish behind a pillar, only for it to be an empty shadow. A flash of movement in the corner of your eye resolves into nothing. You feel intensely exposed, yet simultaneously blind, a chilling paradox. You're a guard meant to see, to protect, but in this suffocating gray world, you're just as lost as anyone. You catch a glimpse of the Lord, seated at the high table, his face a grim mask through the drifting smoke. Even his usually vibrant robes appear dull, muted. You can't make out his expression clearly, but the tension radiating from his posture is undeniable. He glances up, his gaze sweeping the room, but even his eyes seem unable to penetrate the thick air. The smoke itself feels complicit, a silent accomplice to whatever treachery now grips the castle. It's not just an inconvenience. It's an active obfuscation, a shroud woven from uncertainty and fear. And as you patrol, coughing lightly, your vision constantly battling the gray veil, you realize how easy it would be for someone to move, unseen and unheard, through this very room. How easy it would be for a betrayal to unfold right before your eyes, invisible in the smoke of the great hall, leaving you helpless to stop it. This isn't about failing to see a ghost. It's about failing to see the very real, very human monster lurking in plain sight, hidden by the very air you breathe. The acrid smoke of the great hall continues to burn your throat, making every breath a conscious effort. It swirls around the massive tapestries that line the stone walls, turning their vibrant, historical scenes into blurred, indistinct shapes. You press closer to the cold stone, trying to find clearer air, your gaze idly sweeping over the vast woven images, usually unnoticed decorations. One tapestry in particular catches your eye. It depicts a scene from an ancient battle, a chaotic melee of knights and banners. But the smoke, thick and restless, plays tricks with the light. For a fleeting moment, as a gust from an unseen opening stirs the heavy air, the gray veil thins over a specific section, and then you see it. It's a face woven into the fabric, but now it seems unnervingly vivid, almost alive through the swirling smoke. Not the face of a noble warrior or a dying foe, but something far more insidious. A man's face, framed by a hood, his eyes half hidden, a subtle, cruel smirk playing on his lips. There's a glint in his eye that feels predatory, intelligent, and utterly devoid of mercy. He is not a participant in the battle, but an observer, positioned slightly apart, his gaze directed not at the clash of steel, but subtly towards the castle gates themselves. The realization hits you like a cold, wet cloth. This isn't just an artistic detail. This is the face of a betrayer. The prisoner's frantic tale of the bloody siege, of loyalty sold, flashes through your mind. This woven figure, half obscured by the smoke of a present-day crisis, seems to watch the ancient battle, not with concern, but with a chilling satisfaction. It's a face that speaks of complicity, of a hidden hand in the unfolding tragedy. The smoke shifts again, thick tendrils curling around the tapestry, obscuring the face once more, dissolving the cruel smirk back into mere threads of faded wool. You blink, trying to recapture the image, but it's gone, swallowed by the hazy gray. Your heart thuds a dull, heavy rhythm in your chest. The bitter taste of ash in your mouth is now compounded by the bitter taste of dawning suspicion. The cold in the hall feels sharper, not from the winter, but from the chilling revelation that the castle's ancient betrayals are not merely ghosts of the past, but warnings, woven into the very fabric of its history and now, finally, revealed by the obscuring smoke. And you wonder, as you cough, how many other faces, how many other secrets are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the smoke to part. The castle is finally quiet. A heavy, oppressive silence that follows the discovery of Thomas's body and the grim tension that has gripped the guardhouse. You're on a solitary watch, deep within the oldest, least trafficked part of the castle, a stretch of crumbling corridor that snakes beneath the north tower. The air here is colder than anywhere else, a stagnant, biting chill that seeps into your bones, despite the thick wool and chainmail you wear. Your torch casts only a meager circle of light, pushing back weakly against the overwhelming gloom. In this profound quiet, every tiny sound becomes a cannon blast. You hear the rhythmic thump of your own heart in your ears, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. Your breath, usually unnoticed, now sounds loud and ragged, a desperate wheezing that fills the narrow passage. You find yourself holding it, just to stop the echoing noise, only to gasp for air, creating another wave of sound. Then you hear it. The insistent, solitary drip of water. It's coming from somewhere deeper in the shadows. A slow, deliberate plink, plink, plink. Each drop hitting the cold stone floor sounds like a hammer striking iron, amplified, stretched, resonating through the ancient walls. Your eyes dart towards the sound, trying to pierce the gloom, but there's nothing, just the relentless, taunting drip. It feels like the castle itself is weeping, shedding tears of cold ancient stone. Your boots, heavy on the flagstones, usually scuff with a dull rasp, but now they seem to asterisk clatter each step a thunderclap that makes you wince. You try to tread lighter, to mute your own presence, but it's futile. The chainmail, which earlier chafed, now whispers and jingles with every careful movement, 1,000 tiny metallic voices betraying your position, screaming your existence into the terrifying void. A faint scuttling sound, barely audible, makes you jump. It's a rat, you tell yourself, a common inhabitant of these old stones, but tonight it sounds like something much larger, something with purpose, moving stealthily in the dark. Your hand instinctively grips your spear. It's cold wood, a grounding force in the storm of amplified sounds. You strain your ears, trying to determine the direction, the source, the meaning of every creak and rustle. The absolute silence, when it occasionally falls, is even worse, a pregnant pause that screams of lurking danger. You lean against the damp stone wall, trying to find solace in its solidness, but even that is denied. A low, soft groan seems to emanate from the very fabric of the castle, a deep, structural sigh as the old timbers shift in the cold. It's a sound that seems to vibrate through your chest, a primal thrum that speaks of age, and perhaps of pain. You realize that in this complete, solitary quiet, your own mind has become an echo chamber, transforming the mundane into the monstrous. And as you stand there, straining against the invisible weight of all these sounds, you understand that sometimes the greatest terror isn't in what you hear, but in what your mind makes you hear when you're alone in the dark. It's a terrifying symphony of dread, conducted by your own heightened senses. You've escaped the echoing internal dread of the lower corridors, finally ascending to the windswept expanse of the battlements. The change in air is immediate, fresh, biting cold, but thankfully free of the metallic tang of blood, or the lingering stench of decay. You clutch your spear, the rough wood a grounding force in the vast, open darkness. Above you, the moon is a thin sliver, casting long, distorted shadows of the parapet teeth across the inner courtyard. Your gaze sweeps the perimeter, a familiar, rote action honed by countless nights of watch. You peer out over the impenetrable blackness of the forest, the wind tugging at your cloak, whipping strands of hair across your face. The cold numbs your exposed skin, but the sheer emptiness of the night sky, dotted with distant, uncaring stars, usually brings a grim sort of peace. Tonight, though, the peace feels fragile, easily broken. As your eyes follow the curve of the wall, moving past the imposing, crumbling silhouette of the North Tower, you see it. A flicker. A movement on the far edge of your vision, near the furthest point of the old tower, just where it meets the sheer drop to the moat. It's too quick to be anything substantial. A brief, ghost-like ripple against the dark stone, an almost imperceptible shift in the deep shadows. Your breath catches, a sharp intake of the freezing air. You stop dead, every muscle in your body tensing. Your eyes snap back to the spot, trying to grasp what you saw, to confirm it. You stare, unflinching, into the deep, unyielding darkness near the tower. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Only the rough, ancient stone, scarred by centuries of wind and weather, and the oppressive gloom. The wind continues its mournful sigh, but carries no other sound. Was it just the trick of the light? A swirl of snow? A shadow cast by a restless cloud? Your mind races, trying to rationalize the fleeting image. But a cold, dread certainty begins to settle in your gut. What you saw, or thought you saw, was a human-like form, slender and tall, a shadow deeper than the shadows around it. It felt like a presence, a watchful, silent figure that dissolved the moment your direct gaze fell upon it. You press your palms against the cold stone of the parapet, feeling the rough, unyielding texture, trying to ground yourself in the physical world. The cold bites harder now, feeling less like winter, and more like the touch of something unseen. You sweep your torch across the area, the flame dancing frantically, desperate to reveal what the darkness conceals. But the light finds nothing, only emptiness. And as you stand there, alone on the parapet, the biting wind whispering secrets past your ears, you realize that the most terrifying things are often those you can't quite see, those that exist on the edge of perception. It's not a full apparition like the lady in white, but a glimpse, a tantalizing fragment that leaves you with more questions than answers. And the real dread isn't just that something is out there, but that you saw it, briefly, clearly enough to know it was real, yet fleetingly enough to doubt your very sanity. It's the enduring terror of the castle's secret, that it reveals itself in glimpses, just enough to torment, never enough to fully comprehend. The metallic tang of blood and the pervasive stench of decay are still vivid in your memory, a grim tapestry woven into the night. But as you continue your solitary patrol through the deeper recesses of the castle, a new, utterly distinct set of smells begins to permeate the cold, damp air. It's the sweet, cloying perfume of beeswax, rich and warm, mingling with the earthy, spiritual aroma of burning frankincense. It's a scent that pulls you, irresistibly, towards the castle's small, seldom-used chapel. You hesitate at the heavy oak door, the sudden blast of fragrant air almost dizzying after the muted cold. The familiar mustiness of old stone is completely overshadowed. You push the door open slowly, the ancient hinges groaning softly in protest, a sound that feels almost sacrilegious in the sudden, profound quiet of the holy space. Inside, the chapel is awash in the dim, flickering glow of countless candles. Their waxy warmth radiates faintly, a small, defiant pocket of heat against the castle's relentless chill. The air is thick with incense smoke, a heavy, almost visible haze that stings your eyes and catches in the back of your throat. You can taste it, bitter and sweet, on your tongue. It's a smell meant for solemn ritual, for solace and purification, but tonight, it carries an unsettling edge, a desperate urgency. A few figures are huddled on the cold, stone benches. Their backs to you, they are motionless, their heads bowed, their forms indistinct in the dancing candlelight and swirling smoke. Monks, perhaps, or castle servants, seeking refuge from the night's unfolding horrors. Their silence is heavy, not peaceful, but burdened, a stark contrast to the clatter and merriment of the Lord's Hall. You can almost feel the palpable weight of their fear, a current that runs beneath the solemn sense. You step further into the chapel, your boots echoing softly on the stone floor. The combined fragrances of wax and incense are almost overwhelming, suffocating in their intensity. They speak of a desperate invocation, a frantic attempt to ward off something unseen, something unholy that has taken root within these ancient walls. This isn't the comforting embrace of faith. It's the frantic plea of the terrified, the desperate sprinkling of holy water against an encroaching, tangible darkness. And as you breathe in the perfumed air, You realize that the fear here is deeper than any physical threat, deeper than any whispers of betrayal or a sick man's rattle. It's a fear of the soul, a profound dread that demands the strongest spiritual defenses available, leaving you to wonder what horror could possibly necessitate such a desperate, fragrant shield. The castle's dark secret isn't just dark, it's corrupting, festering, and now it's making even the holy places tremble with apprehension, enveloping them in the scent of wax, incense, and a chilling, pervasive fear. The sweet, heavy scent of wax and incense fills the chapel, but it feels less like solace and more like a shroud. You step deeper into the hushed space, your heavy boots barely making a sound on the ancient stone floor. The flickering candlelight illuminates the bowed heads of the scattered figures, their forms draped in shadow, their low murmurs a constant, desperate drone. You find an empty space near the back, feeling the immediate, intense cold of the stone against your knees as you drop to the ground. The smooth, unyielding surface presses against your bones, a stark contrast to the thick cushions of the Lord's own private pews. You bow your head, closing your eyes, trying to find some shred of peace, some comfort in this sacred space. You try to pray, to whisper the familiar words of protection and deliverance, but they feel alien on your tongue. The air, thick with incense, seems to choke you now, rather than cleanse. You try to focus on the distant crucifix on the altar, its figure distorted by the shimmering heat from the candles, its shadows dancing like something alive, something malevolent. The rhythmic whispers of the other worshippers wash over you, a monotonous wave of fervent pleas, but they sound hollow. They sound like a desperate plea echoing into an empty sky, a prayer without a listener. You feel the crucifix hidden beneath your tunic, its cold metal, a familiar weight against your skin. But even its presence offers little comfort tonight. The fear you've gathered throughout the castle, the icy touch, the violent death, the unsettling whispers, they all press down on you, making the act of prayer feel futile. The words stick in your throat, a bitter metallic taste rising in your mouth, tasting like ash and doubt. You try again, but the conviction isn't there. It feels like you're speaking to an absent god, a divinity that has abandoned this castle to its shadows. You glance at the other figures, their faces hidden, their bodies trembling faintly. You see the sheer, unadulterated fear in their rigid postures, the desperation in their tightly clasped hands. They're not praying out of faith, you realize, but out of a profound terror, a last frantic attempt to stave off an encroaching darkness that even the sanctity of the chapel cannot repel. Their prayers feel like a fragile, pathetic barrier against a force too great, too ancient to be swayed by mere words. A deep, bone-weary sigh escapes your lips, unheard amidst the low murmurs. The heat from the candles offers no real warmth, and the heavy incense only serves to highlight the pervasive cold of the stone and the chilling cold in your heart. You understand, then, that sometimes, in the face of true, inexplicable evil, even faith can falter. The prayers here aren't a source of strength. They're a testament to an overwhelming dread, a final, hollow cry into the abyss, confirming that some secrets are so dark, no prayer can truly reach them. The unsettling quiet of the chapel, heavy with the scent of fear and burning incense, has finally given way to a new, deeper dread. Your patrol has led you to the lowest, most desolate part of the castle, the dungeons. A heavy iron-bound door, reluctantly creaking open, reveals a suffocating darkness and an immediate assault on your senses. Your torch, clutched tightly in your trembling hand, casts a weak flickering light down a narrow, dank staircase. Your first step onto the floor below is met with the yielding, squelching give of damp earth. It's not just cold. It's saturated, slimy, clinging to the soles of your boots with a disturbing tenacity. You can feel the cold moisture seeping through the thin leather, a pervasive chill that travels up your legs, leaving your feet numb. The air here is heavy, still, carrying the cloying scent of stagnant water, mildewed stone, and something else. A faint, sickly sweet odor that makes your stomach churn. Decay. You move forward, each step a reluctant squelch against the mud. The passage narrows, the rough-hewn stone walls closing in around you, dripping with condensation. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold, slimy rock, feeling the slick, algae-like growth that coats everything. The claustrophobia is intense, pressing down on you like a physical weight, making it hard to draw a full breath. Then the sounds begin. Your own ragged breathing echoes unnaturally, amplified by the confined space, a desperate wheeze that seems too loud. Every drip of water from the ceiling, usually insignificant, now sounds like a morbid timepiece. Drip, 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 each drop hitting a small puddle with a hollow, resonant plunk that vibrates through the damp earth. You can almost feel the sound in your teeth. You strain your ears, listening past your own amplified sounds. Are there others? A distant, almost imperceptible moan seems to weave through the dripping. Or perhaps it's just the groaning of the ancient castle, settling in its foundations. But here, in this absolute blackness, even the faint stirrings of the unseen feel malevolent, magnified. You call out, a guttural sound torn from your throat, desperate to break the oppressive quiet, to hear a human response. Your voice bounces off the low, arched ceiling, echoing back to you, distorted and eerie, a spectral mockery of your own fear. The echoes linger, a ghostly whisper that fades slowly, leaving a heavier silence in its wake. This isn't just a place of imprisonment, it's a living tomb, breathing out the cold and the fear of centuries. You realize that down here beneath the very foundations of the castle, the earth itself holds secrets, and every sound, every whisper, every echo is a testament to the suffering that has taken root in this damp, unforgiving ground. It's a place where even your own presence feels like a trespass, an intrusion on a profound, ancient misery that the very walls seem to remember. And as you stand there, sinking slightly into the damp earth, you feel its cold, silent embrace, a chilling reminder of the castle's deepest, most forgotten secrets. The damp earth squelches beneath your boots as you finally reach a particular cell, its iron door rusted almost entirely shut. The air here feels even heavier, more choked with the mingled scents of mildew and decay. You push the door open with a grunt, the metal protesting with a high-pitched, drawn-out shriek that scrapes against your ears, echoing unsettlingly in the confined space. Your torch, held high, casts a weak, trembling light onto the rough-hewn wall within. It's a small, miserable space, utterly devoid of comfort, the stone weeping with condensation. But then, your gaze catches something carved into the rock, just at eye level, a desperate mark made by a forgotten hand. You step closer, the damp earth sucking at your boots with each movement. The stone wall feels icy cold beneath your fingertips as you reach out, tracing the deep, uneven lines. It's not a language you immediately recognize, or perhaps it's simply too crude, too desperate to be formal script. Instead, you feel a series of sharp, jagged incisions deliberately carved into the unyielding surface. One symbol looks like a broken crown, another a bird with clipped wings, and beneath them, a word, scratched out in furious, desperate strokes, betrayed. Your fingers linger on the rough carvings, feeling the desperation, the raw anguish that must have fueled their creation. The stone, usually impassive, seems to vibrate with the lingering echoes of that ancient pain. You can almost feel the calloused hand that scraped away at the rock, perhaps with a shard of bone or a broken nail, pouring out a final, agonizing truth into the unlistening silence of the dungeon. The word betrayed feels more potent because it is etched into this cold, hard prison, a last testament from someone forgotten. The damp air feels heavy on your skin, a chilling embrace that seems to soak into your very soul. You look around the small cell, imagining the prisoner, alone in the dark, the drip of water, the endless cold, carving this message as a final act of defiance, a desperate hope that someone, someday, might bear witness to their injustice. The echoes of your own breathing seem muted here, swallowed by the profound silence that has held this inscription captive for centuries. This isn't a hum from a tower, or an unseen touch. This is a tangible, physical manifestation of the castle's dark secret, a truth chiseled into the very stone. The feeling of the cold, damp rock against your fingers as you trace the carved word is a direct connection to a past agony, a forgotten betrayal that still screams from these ancient walls. And as you stand there, the word, betrayed, searing itself into your mind, you realize that some secrets refuse to stay buried, clinging to the very foundations of the world, waiting for a hand to find them, and a heart to finally understand their silent, enduring plea. The damp earth of the dungeon and the chilling word, betrayed, carved into the cell wall still cling to your mind, a haunting echo. You're making your way back up the narrow, twisting staircase, feeling the weight of the castle's secrets pressing down on you. The air is still heavy, but now, a fresh, sharp dread has joined the stale scents of decay and mildew. Suddenly, a deafening blast rips through the very foundations of the castle. It's the alarm horn, a deep, resonant bellow that vibrates through the stone, through the floor beneath your feet, and straight into your chest. It's not the sharp, singular clang of the morning bell. This is a sustained primal cry, a long, guttural roar that means one thing: danger, immediate and undeniable. You flinch, stumbling on a step, your torch almost slipping from your grasp. The sound is so raw, so urgent, it feels like a physical blow to your gut. Your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. You can practically taste it, a sudden, metallic tang in your mouth, a dry, bitter sensation that tells you fear has flooded your system. It's the acrid taste of adrenaline, sharp and potent, stinging your tongue and the back of your throat. Your muscles tense, your hands instinctively clenching around your spear, knuckles white. A cold sweat breaks out on your skin, even in the pervasive chill of the dungeons, prickling your scalp. You burst out of the dungeon door, almost colliding with another guard who was already sprinting past, his face a mask of terror and urgency. The corridor, moments ago silent, is now alive with the frantic scurry of footsteps, the shouted commands of sergeants, the sharp clang of hastily donned armor. The air is thick with the frenzied energy, the collective fear, a palpable wave that pushes you forward. Your own breathing is shallow, ragged, burning in your lungs as you run, driven by the piercing call of the horn. The chainmail, which had been a heavy burden, now feels like a necessary skin, a fragile shield against whatever fresh horror awaits. You can feel the powerful thrumming of your heart, a visceral tremor throughout your body, a stark contrast to the hollow prayers and ghostly whispers that plagued you moments ago. The horn sounds again, closer now. A brutal, insistent shriek that demands action. You hear the shouts of men mobilizing, the gates being secured, the drawbridge groaning as it lifts. The castle has shifted. The insidious, unseen dread has manifested into a clear, tangible threat. And in this moment of pure, raw adrenaline, with the metallic taste of fear coating your tongue, you realize the castle's dark secret isn't just a tale of sorrow or betrayal. It's a living, breathing danger, finally revealing itself in the thunderous blast of a horn, demanding that you fight for your very survival against an enemy you can finally confront. Your mind is no longer haunted by ghosts. It's focused on the cold, hard reality of steel and blood. The castle is a roaring cauldron of sound and motion. The alarm horn, still echoing in your ears, has unleashed a storm of frenzied activity. You're swept up in the tide, jostled by other guards, sergeants barking orders, the clatter of weapons, and the thunder of feet on stone. The metallic taste of adrenaline in your mouth is now joined by the harsh, acrid tang of burning torch fuel and the stale sweat of panicked men. Your chainmail clinks and scrapes, no longer an irritant, but a part of the overwhelming din. You scramble up to the inner wall, near a section of the main gatehouse, where the fighting seems most intense. Archers loose arrows from above, their strings twanging like giant harps. The air is thick with the shouts of men, the clash of steel, the screams of the wounded. You see flashes of light, sparks from blades striking stone, the gleam of distant enemy armor, a sudden, blinding burst from a makeshift fire at the gate. Smoke billows, obscuring and revealing fleeting, violent tableau. Amidst this hellish chaos, your gaze snags on a single figure on the battlements below. It's not one of your fellow guards, nor an enemy warrior. This person stands perfectly still, almost unnervingly composed, amidst the swirling frenzy. They are cloaked in dark, heavy fabric, obscuring any identifying features, but their posture is utterly relaxed, an island of eerie calm in a sea of raw violence. They're positioned at a vantage point overlooking the breach, their heads slightly tilted, as if observing a distant play. The contrast is jarring. Around them, men are falling, shouting, straining, their faces contorted with exertion and terror. But this figure is unmoving, seemingly untouched by the pandemonium. You can feel the vibration of the battle through the stone beneath your feet, the hot rush of breath from a passing guard, the stench of fear and blood. Yet this figure stands apart, radiating an almost unnatural serenity. No frantic gestures, no desperate cries, no hurried movements to defend or attack. Just a cold, calculating stillness. Your eyes narrow, trying to pierce the gloom and the swirling smoke to see them more clearly. Who is this? Why are they so calm when the very castle is under siege? The shouts of your comrades, the clang of weapons, they all seem to fade into a dull roar, your attention utterly fixated on this silent, composed observer. Their stillness feels more menacing than any charging foe, more chilling than any ghost. It's the calm before a deeper storm, a quiet that suggests a terrible knowledge, an intimate connection to the chaos unfolding around them. The cold of the winter night, the heat of battle, the grit of dust and smoke. They all fade against the stark, unsettling calm of that single figure. You realize, with a sudden, chilling clarity, that the true danger isn't just the enemy at the gates. It's the enemy within, the one who watches, composed and silent, amidst the cries of your dying comrades. The castle's dark secret isn't a ghost you see in the dark, but a calm figure in the chaos, a presence that chillingly orchestrates the horror, watching with an unnerving, serene detachment, that promises far greater despair than any battle could ever bring. The deafening roar of battle has finally subsided, leaving behind a ringing silence in your ears, a painful echo of screams and clashing steel. You stand on the blood-slicked flagstones of the inner courtyard, your chest heaving, every muscle screaming in protest. The immediate, overwhelming sensation is the smell. It's a thick, potent aroma, metallic and sweet, the unmistakable scent of fresh blood. It coats the air, a cloying, rusty tang that makes your stomach churn, and you can almost taste it, bitter and coppery on your tongue. Your eyes, stinging from sweat and smoke, dart across the grim tableau. Bodies lie sprawled, some still, some twitching faintly, their forms indistinct against the dark, wet stone. Broken weapons, shattered shields, and scattered arrows litter the ground, glistening dully in the weak, pre-dawn light that begins to creep over the battlements. The cold air, usually a sharp reminder of winter, now feels chillingly sterile, unable to wash away the pervasive reek of death and iron. You take a tentative step, your boots squelching in a puddle that is more red than water. The chainmail, heavy and cold against your skin, now feels like a second skin, stained with the grim reality of what just transpired. You can feel the residue of battle, the grit of dust, the dampness of blood, the lingering cold, clinging to your clothes, to your hands, to your very being. It's an intimate, sickening contact with the violence that just ripped through the castle. Another guard, his face streaked with grime and exhaustion, walks past you, his gaze empty, unseeing. He doesn't speak, just offers a weary, almost imperceptible shake of his head before moving on to help lift a fallen comrade. No words are needed. The shared experience of this coppery aftermath is enough. The sounds of distant groans, the soft whimpers of the wounded, are now painfully clear, no longer masked by the clamor of conflict. Each sound is a tiny, sharp jab, a reminder of the fragility of life. You glance towards the North Tower, its dark silhouette rising ominously against the lightening sky. The figures, the whispers, the ghostly touch, they were all warnings, intangible dread that is now manifested in this visceral, bloody reality. The cold, unfeeling stone of the castle has borne witness to this kind of violence before, countless times, absorbing the blood into its ancient foundations. And as you stand there, breathing in the metallic air, feeling the sticky cold of the aftermath, you realize that the most profound fear isn't just about what you might see, but about what you will inevitably feel, taste, and smell. The stark, lingering evidence of human brutality that stains everything, even the very air, long after the fighting has ceased. The cost of conflict, you understand, lingers long after the battle is over, forever etched into the landscape and the memory. The coppery tang of blood and smoke still clings to the air, heavy and inescapable. You slump against a cold stone wall in the courtyard, your body aching, every muscle screaming in protest after the brutal skirmish. The ground is slick, treacherous. Around you, the castle buzzes with the grim tasks of the aftermath, the groans of the wounded, the hushed commands, the dull thud of bodies being moved. Your chainmail feels like a lead shroud, cold and heavy, pressing down on your exhaustion. You close your eyes for a moment, trying to block out the grim tableau, but the metallic scent and the sounds of suffering are too vivid. When you open them, your gaze drifts, almost involuntarily, towards the North Tower. Its silhouette, dark and imposing against the pre-dawn sky, stands as a silent witness to all the horrors of the night, both seen and unseen. You remember the lullaby, the fleeting glimpse on the parapet, the lady in white. Now, though, something is different. The dread that usually accompanies thoughts of the tower is muted, replaced by a strange, almost unsettling sense of quiet vigilance. You search the battlements near its crumbling edge, where you last saw that fleeting shape. There's nothing there. No figure, no movement, just the empty, ancient stone. Yet, the absence feels watchful. A cold gust of wind whips through the courtyard, bringing with it a subtle, almost imperceptible scent. It's not the blood or smoke. It's a faint, clean chill, like fresh snow, tinged with a delicate, ghost-like floral note that lingers for a split second before vanishing. It's the closest thing to a comforting sensation you've felt all night. This isn't the icy touch of malevolence, nor the chill of death. This is the cold of eternal vigil, a sorrowful embrace. You push yourself upright, feeling the familiar ache in your joints. You scan the tower again, a new understanding beginning to form in your weary mind. The ghosts of this castle, the lady in white, the unidentifiable shadows, they might not be here to simply haunt, but to watch, to bear witness, to guard, in their own silent, sorrowful way, against the betrayals and violence that plague these stones. They are not merely specters of fear, but echoes of loyalty, of an enduring bond to this place, or perhaps to a lost cause. The castle might be a place of darkness and secrets, but it is also a place where some presences, even ghostly ones, choose to remain. They are tied here, not just by tragedy, but by a deeper purpose, an eternal, silent watch over the living, and over the secrets that refuse to die. And as the first faint rays of dawn touch the battlements, painting the old stone in hues of gray and soft rose, you feel a strange sense of companionship in the cold air, a realization that even in its deepest horror this castle might possess guardian spirits, its secrets watched over by those who can never truly leave. It's a grim comfort, but a comfort nonetheless, knowing that some eyes, even unseen ones, are always on watch. The blood and chaos of the courtyard are behind you, but the frantic energy has not yet dissipated from your weary limbs. Orders have been given. The immediate threat seems contained. For now, your new assignment leads you away from the grim aftermath, into a different kind of disquiet. You are to stand guard in the Lord's solar, his private chambers, a place usually bustling with quiet activity, hushed conversation, and the soft rustle of expensive fabrics. You push open the heavy, polished oak door, expecting at least the lingering warmth of a dying fire, the faint scent of parchment, or the murmur of waiting servants. Instead, you're met with an oppressive stillness, a profound absence of sound that feels heavier than any silence you've encountered yet. It's not the chilling quiet of the battlements, nor the suffocating hush of the dungeons. This is a silence so deep, so absolute, it feels like the air itself has stopped moving. The warmth that usually pervades these richly appointed rooms is gone, replaced by a lingering, cold emptiness. The thick tapestries on the walls, depicting scenes of noble hunts and ancient heroes, seem to absorb all sound, trapping it within their woven threads. The heavy velvet drapes are drawn, plunging the room into a deep, velvety gloom, broken only by the faint, filtered light from a single, tall window, painting a pale stripe across the polished floor. You take a tentative step onto the thick, embroidered rug, your heavy boots making no sound at all. The very air feels ancient, undisturbed, carrying a faint, refined scent of old wood, beeswax polish, and perhaps a ghost of the Lord's favorite spiced wine. But it's an embalmed scent, a memory, not a fresh presence. You strain your ears, listening for anything, a crackle from the hearth, a shifting of furniture, even the soft scurry of a mouse in the wainscoting. Nothing. only the amplified beat of your own heart, a frantic drum against the backdrop of this unnerving void. You walk deeper into the chamber, your movements feeling clumsy, sacrilegious in this sacred quiet. Your chainmail, which just moments ago rattled with the chaos of battle, now feels impossibly loud against your tunic, a whisper that screams in the stillness. You glance at the enormous, ornate bed, its heavy hanging still, perfectly undisturbed. The writing desk, usually littered with scrolls and quills, is meticulously clear. Everything is in its place, pristine, as if frozen in time. The stillness feels less like peace and more like a held breath, a moment suspended, waiting for something terrible to shatter it. It hints at an abrupt departure, an absence so sudden and complete it stripped the room of all its life. This isn't the quiet of rest, it's the quiet of an ending. And as you stand there, alone in the Lord's solar, surrounded by wealth and power, you realize that even the highest walls and the thickest comforts cannot keep out the silence that follows a truly devastating loss, or perhaps a cunning act. It's a silence that suggests not absence, but an unseen, profound change. The oppressive stillness of the Lord's solar still hangs heavy, pressing down on you like a physical weight. You stand amidst the silent opulence, feeling the subtle chill emanating from the heavy, unlit hearth, the absence of life deafening. The air, thin and cold, seems to carry the ghost of something unspoken, something profoundly wrong. Your gaze keeps returning to the meticulously undisturbed writing desk, its surface gleaming, waiting for a hand that isn't there. Suddenly the heavy oak door creaks open behind you. You spin around, spear at the ready, your heart leaping into your throat. A high-ranking knight, Lord Gareth, stands framed in the doorway, his face grim, his eyes shadowed. He carries himself with a rigid authority, but there's an unspoken tension in his jaw, a tight line to his lips. He doesn't look at you directly, his gaze sweeping the pristine room, lingering for a moment on the empty desk. He steps inside, and the cold stillness seems to deepen in his wake. His heavy boots make no sound on the thick rug, adding to the unnerving quiet. You can feel his scrutiny, a prickle on your skin, even though his eyes avoid yours. The air grows heavier, charged with unspoken commands. He finally turns to you, his gaze cold and direct, unwavering. You can almost feel the weight of his stare, an invisible hand pressing down on your chest. His face is impassive, but his eyes hold a chilling intensity, a silent threat. You stand taller, trying to meet his gaze without flinching, a battle of wills in the suffocating silence. Then he speaks, his voice low, almost a whisper, yet resonating with an undeniable power that seems to strip the air of any remaining warmth. His words are few, sharp, delivered with an icy finality. He speaks of duty, of loyalty, and then, chillingly, of discretion. His eyes flick to the North Tower, visible through the tall window, its crumbling silhouette, a silent, complicit witness. He implies, without explicitly stating, that the recent events, the death of Thomas, the attack on the castle, the Lord's absence, are not to be discussed, not to be questioned. You are to forget what you have seen, what you have heard, what you have felt. The implicit threat is clear, cold as the dungeon stone. The calm figure you saw in the battle, the face in the tapestry, the whispers in the mud, the inscribed word betrayed. All of it is to be erased from your mind, a carefully constructed illusion to be maintained. You feel a bitter taste in your mouth, drier than ash. The weight of your silence presses down on you, heavier than your chainmail, a profound and terrible burden. And as Lord Gareth turns and exits, leaving you once again in the suffocating stillness of the solar, you realize the castle's dark secret is not just about ghosts and betrayals, but about the willful blindness of the living. It's about an imposed silence, in order to forget a truth that aches in your bones. And in this chilling act of forced oblivion, you understand why medieval guards prayed not to see a ghost. Because sometimes the living can be far more terrifying, their commands far more insidious than any phantom from the past. Forgetting, you realize, can be a more profound horror than remembering. The chilling command to forget, delivered with such cold authority, burns in your mind, a far more oppressive weight than your chainmail. But some things, once seen, cannot be unseen. Some truths, once glimpsed, refuse to be forgotten. Driven by an insatiable, dangerous curiosity, and knowing the risk, you find yourself drawn to the castle's hidden scriptorium, a dusty, seldom-used chamber tucked away in an obscure corner of a library. You slip inside, the heavy oak door groaning softly behind you as you close it, plunging you into near darkness. Your torch casts long, dancing shadows across towering shelves crammed with ancient scrolls and heavy leather-bound tomes. The air here is dry, still, thick with the unmistakable scent of aged parchment and brittle paper, mingling with the faint, sweet aroma of decaying leather and forgotten wisdom. But beneath it all, there's a sharper, almost metallic tang, the dry, powdery smell of disturbed dust, ancient and undisturbed for far too long. You cough, the dry dust catching in your throat, a fine, gritty sensation that makes your eyes water. You can almost feel it settling on your tongue, a chalky taste that speaks of neglect and forbidden knowledge. You run a hand over the spines of the nearest books, feeling the rough, dry texture of sun-baked leather, the faint crumble of age beneath your fingertips. Each volume feels heavy with unspoken histories, their contents sealed not just by clasps, but by the weight of time and intentional obscurity. You move deeper into the room, your footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust on the stone floor. It rises around your feet in tiny, swirling clouds, catching the torchlight, making the air shimmer. You brush against a stacked pile of old scrolls, and a fine, silken plume of dust billows up, coating your tunic, making you sneeze. The dryness is pervasive, clinging to your skin, to your clothes, seeping into your very pores. It feels like the very air is made of forgotten time. You reach a particularly dark corner, where the shelves are even more densely packed, the books bound in plain, unmarked leather, almost blending into the shadows. Here, the dry, ancient dust is thickest, a palpable layer that speaks of decades, perhaps centuries, of undisturbed quiet. You carefully pull a heavy tome from its resting place, feeling the grit of the dust on its cover, hearing the faint creak of its ancient binding. As you open it, a cloud of fine gray dust puffs out, stinging your eyes, filling your nostrils with the taste of antiquity. This isn't just dust, it's the accumulated silence of forgotten voices, the powdery residue of suppressed truths. You recognize the familiar symbols from the dungeon inscription, and the cruel face from the tapestry, mirroring the text on the brittle, yellowed pages. You realize that the castle's dark secret isn't just hidden, it's buried, intentionally obscured beneath layers of time and dust, waiting to be rediscovered by those brave enough to challenge the silence. And as you peer at the faded script, tasting the dry dust of forbidden chronicles, you know you are no longer just a guard. You are a truth-seeker, unearthing the tangible evidence of a carefully constructed lie, The dry dust of ancient chronicles coats your throat, a gritty testament to the forgotten truths you're unearthing. Your fingers, smudged with ink and grime, trace the faded script on the brittle parchment, your torchlight flickering over the strange symbols and careful drawings. The cold stillness of the hidden scriptorium feels charged with revelation, the air thick with the weight of centuries of secrets. You lean closer, deciphering the spidery script, recognizing the language of the Old Kingdom, a dialect rarely spoken now. The chronicles detail the very siege the old prisoner spoke of, the brutal attack that almost brought the castle to its knees. You see sketches of the castle's layout, notes on defense, and then a chilling entry. It speaks of a specific betrayal, of a treacherous hand that opened a hidden passage, allowing the enemy to breach the inner walls. And then you find her, nestled among the detailed accounts of battle and political intrigue. There's a small, delicate illustration. It's a woman's face, drawn with an exquisite, heartbreaking sorrow, her eyes cast downwards, framed by long, flowing hair. And beneath it, a name, written in a flourish that feels both elegant and tragic. Lady Eleanor. Your breath catches. Lady Eleanor. The Lady in White. The Ghost. Her story unfolds on the pages before you. A tale of love lost, of a noble family betrayed, of her own tragic death, not by enemy hands, but by those sworn to protect her, to silence her. She discovered the treachery, confronted the betrayers, and paid the ultimate price. Her body, the chronicle suggests, was hidden within the very walls of the North Tower, her voice silenced, her memory erased. The metallic tang of the dust in your mouth now feels like the taste of tears, of ancient grief. You remember the mournful lullaby from the North Tower, the soft thump, the cold comfort of her silent vigil. It all clicks into place, a horrifying mosaic of injustice and sorrow. Her presence isn't just a haunting, it's a desperate, eternal plea for recognition, for justice, a silent scream of betrayed from the depths of her stone tomb. You touch the illustration, feeling the delicate texture of the aged parchment, the faint indentation where the artist's hand pressed down. Her sorrowful eyes, though merely ink on paper, seem to gaze back at you, a silent appeal across the centuries. The scriptorium, moments ago a repository of forgotten facts, is now a chamber of profound, aching empathy. And as you stand there, holding the fragile chronicle, giving a name to the nameless ghost, you understand the true horror of the castle's dark secret. It isn't just about the terror of seeing a ghost. It's about knowing her story, about feeling the weight of her injustice, about recognizing that some spirits are trapped not by chains, but by unanswered questions, by the sheer, brutal force of human cruelty and betrayal. Lady Eleanor, you realize, isn't just a ghost. She is the castle's memory, aching for vindication, and you, an unwitting guard, have just become her only confidant, her last hope. The brittle parchment, still vibrating with Lady Eleanor's forgotten story, lies abandoned in the scriptorium. You have seen, and now you know. The weight of that truth, heavier than any chainmail, drives you from the dry, dusty air back into the familiar, biting cold of the castle grounds. The whispers of Lord Gareth, the metallic scent of fresh blood, the damp earth of the dungeon, they all coalesce into a single, chilling narrative, finally understood. Your hands, still numb from gripping the ancient chronicle, instinctively reach for your gear. You retrieve your steel gauntlet from where it lay beside your spear, its familiar weight a grim comfort, a tool of your trade. But as your bare fingers close around the metal, a sharp, crystalline bite makes you wince. The first heavy frost of the deepest winter has settled, fine and glittering, across the polished steel. It's not just cold. It's an intense, searing frigidity that seems to burn your skin, leaving a phantom ache even after you pull your hand away. You watch your breath plume in the frigid air, a stark white cloud against the lingering darkness of the pre-dawn sky. The gauntlet, now securely on your hand, feels like an extension of the castle itself, hard, unyielding, and utterly, relentlessly cold. Each segment of the articulated metal is etched with a delicate lace of ice, shimmering faintly in the faint light cast by a distant torch. You can feel the sharp edges of the frost through your thick leather glove, a constant, biting reminder of the raw, exposed reality you inhabit. You clench your fist, feeling the resistant, almost brittle crunch of the frozen moisture on the steel. It's a sensation that speaks of grim endurance, of an unyielding battle against the elements, against all odds. The cold isn't just external. It's a reflection of the hard, unvarnished truth you've uncovered, a chilling clarity that cuts through the fog of doubt and fear. This isn't the mysterious, phantom chill of a ghost, but the tangible, undeniable bite of a world steeped in cold, hard betrayals. You glance at the North Tower, its ruined form now holding not just dread, but the profound sorrow of Lady Eleanor. The cold steel on your hand feels like a pledge, a promise to the forgotten. And as you patrol the silent, frosted ramparts, the crisp, icy air filling your lungs, you realize that some truths, like the first frost on a steel gauntlet, are harsh and unyielding, but they also sharpen your resolve, making you stronger, clearer, and more ready to face the bitter realities of a world that would rather forget. Knowing the truth, even a cold and painful one, is a heavy but necessary shield. The first heavy frost on your gauntlet, the biting cold of the pre-dawn air, now feels less like a threat and more like a companion. You walk the battlements with a new sense of purpose, Lady Eleanor's story etched into your memory, the truth a heavy but vital weight in your heart. The castle, once a place of bewildering dread, now hums with a tragic history that feels both ancient and terribly immediate. The sky, still cloaked in winter's deepest gloom, begins its slow, reluctant shift towards dawn. The pale gray light struggles to break through the thick, swirling clouds, promising another day of biting cold and muted light. The wind, which usually howls with a desolate loneliness, now carries a sharper edge, a mournful whisper that seems to weave through the very stones of the North Tower. You can feel the intense cold of the stone through your boots, through your armor, a perpetual chill that seems to emanate from the earth itself. You patrol the familiar route, your gaze fixed on the North Tower. You're not just looking for threats, you're looking for Saideher. And then, in the deepest shadow of the crumbling tower, where the last vestiges of true night cling most stubbornly, she appears. She is there, a silent, ethereal presence, just as you saw her before. Draped in luminous white, her form indistinct, shimmering like mist in the icy air. But this time there's no jolt of blind terror, no desperate urge to run. Instead, a profound sadness washes over you, a familiar ache in your chest that resonates with her unspoken grief. You know her name, you know her story. She is Lady Eleanor. She faces away from you, as always, gazing out into the dark, frozen landscape beyond the castle walls, as if searching for something, or someone, lost long ago. Her figure is still, perfectly composed, yet radiating an almost unbearable sorrow. The cold air around her feels colder, a localized pocket of profound frigidity, but it's a cold you now understand. It's the cold of an eternal vigil, of a heart frozen in timeless grief. You don't move. You just watch, your spear held loosely in your hand, your breath clouding in the air, a visible link between your mortal existence and her timeless one. You don't speak, knowing words are useless against such ancient pain. Her head turns slightly, almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging your presence, your silent understanding. You don't see her face clearly, just the faint, sorrowful outline, but in that moment, you feel a connection, a shared burden of knowledge and loss. And as the last of winter's gloom slowly begins to recede before the reluctant dawn, Lady Eleanor, the castle's guardian spirit, gradually fades, dissolving back into the cold gray stone from which she emerged. You realize that the ghost's return isn't a harbinger of fear, but a reaffirmation of the truth you have found. She is not a monster to be fought, but a memory to be honored, a tragic truth that demands justice, and in her fading you feel a profound sense of responsibility. You saw a ghost, yes, but more importantly you understood her, and in doing so, you have become inextricably woven into the castle's dark, enduring secret. The battle is over for now. The raw exhaustion clings to your bones, heavier than any armor. You find yourself in the mess hall, the air thick with the smell of damp wool, stale sweat, and the lingering, faint metallic tang of the skirmish. It's a bitter, grimy atmosphere, but one that feels achingly real after the ghosts and revelations of the night. You sit heavily on a rough wooden bench, your body protesting every movement, and reach for a dented pewter mug. The ale is thin, lukewarm and cloudy, its surface reflecting the flickering torchlight in the cavernous room. You raise it to your lips, the cold metal, a familiar shock against your skin, and take a long, deep draught. The taste is immediately strong, earthy and sour, with a distinct bitterness that cuts through the dryness in your mouth. It's not a pleasant drink, not truly, but it's potent, and for a moment, the dull ache in your muscles seems to lessen, the knot of tension in your gut begins to unravel. You feel the liquid slide down your throat, a warm, slightly burning sensation that spreads into your stomach. It's a small, fleeting comfort, a moment of raw, unadorned life in a world that feels increasingly grim. The yeasty scent rises from the mug, mingling with the heavier, less pleasant odors of the hall. But for these few sips, it's enough to focus your senses on the immediate, tangible reality of the drink. You drain the mug, feeling the rough texture of the ale against your tongue, a small, satisfying gurgle as you swallow the last drops. Around you, other guards slump on benches, their faces drawn, their eyes distant. They too grasp their mugs, drinking with the same quiet desperation, seeking that same fleeting escape. There are no jokes, no boasts of valor, just the low hum of shared exhaustion and an unspoken understanding of the horrors just witnessed. Their movements are slow, deliberate, each sip a conscious effort to reclaim a small piece of themselves from the chaos. You watch one man slowly turn his mug in his hands, his gaze fixed on nothing, a silent tremor passing through his shoulders. He doesn't need to speak. You see his weariness, his lingering fear. The thin ale, though imperfect, provides a brief, potent anchor in the tumultuous sea of your thoughts. It's a moment where the world shrinks to the warmth in your belly, to the taste on your tongue, pushing back the ghosts of Lady Eleanor, the whispers of betrayal, and the cold, hard truths of the castle's dark secret. You breathe deeply, the bitterness of the ale lingering, a stark reminder of life's raw simplicity. In this fleeting taste of survival, in this brief moment of dulling the mind, you recognize that even small comforts become vital shields, allowing you to endure, to return, however reluctantly, to a world that relentlessly demands your attention, forcing you to choose between the oblivion of drink and the heavy, dangerous clarity of knowing. The last sip of ale provided only fleeting comfort, a temporary reprieve from the brutal aftermath of the skirmish and the chilling weight of Lady Eleanor's story. Now, driven by a quiet, fierce determination, you find yourself picking your way through a forgotten, overgrown section of the castle grounds, just beyond the outer wall of the North Tower. The air here is still and heavy, colder than the main courtyard, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a rich, fungal aroma that clings to your nostrils. Your boots sink slightly into the soft, yielding soil, each step muffled by a carpet of frozen, brittle vegetation. You can feel the sharp, icy edges of withered stalks pressing through the thin leather of your soles. The light is dim, the sky a dull, uniform gray that promises no sun. Above you the North Tower looms, its crumbling stone seeming to watch your clandestine search. Its ruined silhouette against the oppressive sky feels like a personal challenge, a monument to a forgotten truth. You move slowly, your gaze sweeping the neglected ground, searching for any sign, any subtle indication that this place holds a secret. The cold penetrates your heavy tunic, reaching your skin, a familiar, relentless chill. You run a gloved hand over the rough bark of an ancient, gnarled oak tree, its branches skeletal against the sky, feeling the intricate patterns of its age. Everything here whispers of time, of things left untouched and unremembered. Then you see it. Tucked beneath the sprawling roots of the old oak, half hidden by a tangle of dead brambles, is a low, unassuming mound of earth. It's barely discernible from the surrounding terrain, perhaps intentionally so. There's no carved headstone, no elaborate monument, just a small, weathered piece of flat river stone, almost swallowed by the soil. It bears no inscription, no name, only the faint, weathered outline of a crudely etched broken crown, its simple form mirroring the symbol you traced in the dungeon. You kneel, feeling the intense, damp cold of the earth seep through your clothes. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold, smooth stone, then gently sweeping away the fallen leaves and frozen dirt. The earth beneath feels firm, packed down by the weight of centuries. This isn't just a patch of ground, it's a grave, a secret resting place, a simple, forgotten grave in the shadow of a grand castle. And in its utter humility, you recognize the profound injustice. You feel the presence of Lady Eleanor here, not as a fleeting specter, but as a deep, resonant sorrow radiating from the very soil. This is where her story truly lies, hidden beneath the earth, unadorned, yet screaming of a noble life betrayed, a truth suppressed. The silence of the neglected garden surrounds you, broken only by your own shallow breathing and the distant, muffled sounds of the castle's waking life. A world that strives to forget. And as you press your hand against the cold, unyielding earth, you realize that true nobility isn't found in grand monuments or whispered legends, but in the quiet dignity of a forgotten life, in a simple grave that demands to be remembered. And you, an unwitting guard, have just borne witness to her enduring, silent plea. The simple grave, marked only by a broken crown, resonates with a profound silence that speaks volumes. You stand there, a silent witness to Lady Eleanor's forgotten resting place, the cold earth beneath your boots, a tangible link to her enduring sorrow. The air is thick with the scent of damp soil and decaying leaves, but a new resolve hardens in your gut, pushing back against the chilling dread. You are no longer just a guard. You are an inheritor of her secret, a voice for the silenced. A sudden, fierce gust of wind whips through the neglected garden, tearing at your cloak, biting at your exposed skin. It carries with it the first heavy drops of winter rain, cold and sharp, stinging your face. The sky, which had been merely gloomy, now darkens ominously, pregnant with an approaching storm. Distant thunder rumbles, a low, guttural growl that vibrates through the very ground. The wind howls, a rising crescendo of elemental fury, mirroring the tempest in your heart. You look up at the North Tower, its ruined battlements now obscured by swirling rain and deepening gloom. You recall the mournful lullaby, the cold comfort of her presence, the fleeting glimpse on the parapet. You remember her name, Lady Eleanor, a name spoken only in hushed whispers, or, now, in the pages of a forgotten chronicle. You take a deep, shaky breath, the cold rain plastering your hair to your forehead. The bitterness of the cold, the sting of the rain, the rumble of thunder, they are all a part of this moment, a natural world reflecting the turmoil you carry. You clench your fists, feeling the cold metal of your gauntlet, a hard, unyielding weight. And then you speak. Your voice, at first, is a ragged whisper, barely audible over the rising wind and the drumming rain. But then, it grows stronger, fueled by the conviction of the truth you hold, by the weight of her forgotten story. You call out, Eleanor, Lady Eleanor. Your voice is raw, unpracticed, but it carries a desperate, heartfelt plea. It's a defiant challenge to the silence that has tried to erase her. The wind screams in response, snatching at your words, trying to tear them away, but you repeat her name, louder, more forcefully. The rain lashes down, soaking your clothes, chilling you to the bone, but you don't care. You are calling to a ghost, yes, but you are also calling out for justice, for recognition, for an end to the long, cruel silence. The thunder cracks overhead, a deafening clap that seems to shake the very foundations of the castle, but you keep speaking her name into the storm. You stand there, a solitary figure against the unleashed fury of winter, calling out to a spirit you can barely see, hoping she can hear you through the chaos. You taste the rain, cold and clean, mingling with the bitter taste of fear and newfound purpose. This isn't about dread anymore. It's about defiance. It's about breaking the silence, shattering the imposed oblivion, and honoring a truth that demands to be heard. And as you call her name into the storm, you realize you're not just speaking to a ghost, you're speaking for her, a fragile, desperate promise against the relentless tide of history and betrayal. The wind screams, whipping your rain-soaked hair across your face, mingling with the last, desperate echoes of Lady Eleanor's name. The thunder rumbles again, a deep, unsettling growl in the tempestuous sky. You stand there soaked and shivering, defiant against the raw fury of the elements, a lone figure calling out to a ghost. The cold rain stings your skin, yet suddenly a different chill begins to spread through you, deeper, sharper, not from the winter storm, but from within. The world around you seems to warp. The relentless drumming of the rain fades, not gradually, but abruptly, replaced by an unnatural, suffocating quiet. The furious wind dies, leaving an eerie stillness that feels heavier, colder than any silence you've known. The gray, churning sky above the North Tower shifts, twisting into a swirling vortex of shadows, a window into a past that is not merely remembered, but reenacted. Then you see it. The crumbling battlements of the North Tower, moments ago obscured by rain, now stand starkly clear, impossibly solid. Within its highest, most ruined chamber, a scene unfolds. The air around you grows frigid, a bone-deep cold that pierces your heavy clothes, stealing your breath, the same chilling cold that emanated from Lady Eleanor. You taste something metallic in your mouth, sharp and acrid, like fear and ancient blood. Figures appear, shadows deeper than the night itself, moving with a silent, swift precision that chills you to your core. They are cloaked, hooded, their faces indistinct, but their menace is palpable. One figure, taller, more commanding, steps forward, and for a fleeting instant, you recognize the cruel smirk from the tapestry, the chilling calm you saw in the midst of battle. He is here, in this vision, orchestrating the unspeakable. And then, Lady Eleanor. She stands against the broken stone, her white gown luminous in the spectral gloom, her face etched with a profound, heart-wrenching terror. Her eyes, wide and filled with despair, are fixed not on the hooded figures, but on the broken crown symbol, carved into the stone of the very wall she leans against, as if she knew her fate was sealed by betrayal. The scene is silent, yet you hear her unspoken scream, a sound that tears at your very soul. You watch, helpless, as the figures close in. The tall, cloaked one raises an arm, a glint of metal flashing in the spectral light. You feel the icy touch of an unseen hand against your own throat, a phantom pressure that chokes off your breath, drawing you into her final agonizing moments. The entire vision pulses with a raw, ancient pain, an anguish that transcends time and space. The cold in your chest tightens, a frozen knot of despair and rage. This isn't just a story from a book, it's a living, breathing nightmare unfolding before your terrified eyes. The castle's dark secret is not just about a ghost you saw. It is about a monstrous truth you are now forced to asterisk feel. And as the horrific tableau culminates, dissolving back into the swirling rain and the howling wind, you realize that some crimes are so profound, so steeped in betrayal that they rip holes in the fabric of time, making you a reluctant witness to the suffering of centuries past. A silent confidant to a horror that refuses to truly die. You have been shown the genesis of the ghost, and it will forever haunt your living breath. The ferocious vision of Lady Eleanor's murder has vanished, leaving you reeling. The piercing rain, the howling wind, the rumble of thunder, they all crash back into your senses. A brutal return to the present. You stand there, soaked to the bone, gasping for breath, the icy water plastering your hair to your face. But the cold now feels secondary. What consumes you is the heavy, suffocating weight of the truth you have just witnessed. Your body aches with a profound weariness, deeper than any fatigue from patrol or battle. The chill in your bones isn't merely from the winter storm. It's the lingering touch of that ancient, murderous cold. You taste salt on your lips from the rain, perhaps from tears you didn't know you shed. And beneath it, a bitter, metallic tang, the ghostly aftertaste of blood from a crime centuries past, yet sickeningly fresh in your mind. The chainmail, which had offered a fragile sense of protection, now feels like a lead shroud, pressing down on your chest, making each breath a laborious effort. Every link seems to chafe, 1,000 tiny voices whispering of treachery and death. You feel a dull, persistent pressure behind your eyes, a headache blossoming from the sheer horror of what you've absorbed. The raw, brutal injustice of it all settles in your gut, a cold, hard knot that churns with impotent rage. You force yourself to move, your movements stiff, clumsy. Each step across the sodden earth is a struggle, the mud sucking at your heavy boots, as if the ground itself is trying to hold you down, to keep the secret buried. You glance up at the North Tower, its ruined silhouette, a stark, grim monument against the churning sky. It no longer holds a ghostly allure, but the tangible, horrifying reality of a tomb. The stones seem to weep, not just with rain, but with the silent sorrow of Lady Eleanor, a sorrow you now intimately share. The sounds of the storm, the whipping wind, the drumming rain, feel like a muffled roar around you. Your own heart pounds a heavy, mournful rhythm, a drumbeat for the betrayed. You feel utterly alone, burdened by a truth too terrible to speak, too dangerous to ignore. Lord Gareth's chilling command to forget echoes in your mind, but forgetting now feels impossible. A betrayal of Lady Eleanor herself. This isn't just a ghostly encounter. It's an inheritance. You carry the weight of a murderous truth, a burden that presses down on your shoulders, heavier than any armor, colder than any winter. And as you stumble back towards the grim reality of the castle, every nerve ending screaming with exhaustion and revelation, you realize the castle's dark secret isn't a phenomenon to be observed, but a living, suffocating weight that will forever change the air you breathe and the very ground you walk on. The terror isn't seeing a ghost, it's becoming bound to her tragic, unyielding truth. The brutal vision of Lady Eleanor's murder has finally retreated, leaving you once again beneath the actual, biting winter storm. The rain lashes down, soaking through your heavy clothes, chilling you to the bone. Your body trembles, not just from the cold, but from the profound, unsettling weight of the truth you now carry. The castle, which always held secrets, now feels like a tomb, its walls built on a foundation of lies and blood. You stumble back from the desolate garden, your boots squelching in the mud, each step a heavy, reluctant commitment. The taste of salt, rain, and ancient blood coats your tongue, a visceral reminder of what you've witnessed. But the physical discomfort is secondary. Your mind is a churning maelstrom of conflicting thoughts, a furious battle between what you know and what you must do to survive. Lord Gareth's icy command echoes in your head, a constant, chilling whisper. Forget what was seen. His impassive face, his unspoken threat, they are as real and menacing as any specter. To speak the truth, to reveal Lady Eleanor's fate, means exposing powerful figures who orchestrated not only her death, but also the recent attack on the castle. Figures who would not hesitate to silence you permanently. You feel the cold, hard reality of your situation pressing down on you, a crushing weight that makes your chainmail feel like a cage, not protection. You see other guards moving through the courtyard, their faces etched with the lingering fatigue of battle, their concerns immediate: securing the gates, tending the wounded, finding warmth. They are focused on the survival of the living, on the tangible threats they can fight with steel. Your eyes meet one man's briefly, a flicker of shared weariness, and you feel the immense gulf between your burdens. They fight a visible enemy. You fight an invisible conspiracy, a centuries-old lie. The heavy, wet wool of your cloak clings to you, a cold, suffocating embrace. You clench your fists, feeling the cold metal of your gauntlet. Justice for the dead, for Lady Eleanor, screams in your heart. You feel the raw, aching injustice of her betrayal, a fire burning in your gut. But then, the image of Thomas, sprawled in the corridor, his life spilled onto the stone, flashes through your mind. That was the cost of discovery, the price of knowing too much. You taste the metallic tang of fear, a familiar, bitter presence that reminds you of your own fragile mortality. To act is to invite a swift, silent death. To remain silent is to live, to continue breathing this cold, bitter air, but to carry the unbearable weight of a truth that cries out for vengeance. You are caught between two impossible demands: the moral imperative to right a grievous wrong, and the primal instinct to survive. You lean against a cold, damp stone wall, the rough texture a grounding force. The wind howls, a mournful song of choices and consequences. You close your eyes, the profound dilemma, a burning ache behind your eyelids. To live with this secret would be to betray Lady Eleanor again. To expose it would be to sacrifice your own life. And you realize with a heavy, aching certainty that this is the true curse of the castle's dark secret. It forces the living to choose between their own fragile existence and the clamoring justice of the dead. A choice that strips you bare, leaving you to wonder which burden is ultimately heavier. The bitter wind howls, a familiar companion, as you find yourself once more on the castle's battlements. The raw, biting cold sinks deep into your bones, a constant, pervasive chill that has defined nearly every waking moment since you first woke to this medieval winter. But tonight, there's a profound difference in its embrace. The cold is no longer just the merciless bite of the ancient stone, nor merely the season's unforgiving reality. It is now, undeniably, the very breath of this castle's dark secret, a truth that has settled deep within you, colder and more piercing than any ice. You can feel the icy sting on your exposed cheeks, a sharp, undeniable sensation as your ragged breath plumes in thick, white clouds, instantly dissolving into the frigid, oppressive air. Your fingers, despite the protective layers of thick leather gloves, ache with a persistent numbness as you grip the rough wood of your spear, its metal head at the tip almost burning with an intense, crystalline cold. The familiar groan of the timbers in the gatehouse, the distant, mournful creak of the castle flag straining against the wind, they all carry a hollow, deeper ring tonight. It's a sound that resonates with the vast emptiness left by betrayal, and the chilling weight of unspoken sorrow. The damp stone underfoot is no longer just a cold surface. It's the unyielding foundation of centuries of injustice, silently absorbing generations of pain and hidden truths. The incessant chill in the air seems to carry the faint, ghost-like scent of aged parchment, rising from the forbidden chronicles you recently discovered. This scent now mingles, disturbingly, with the sharp, coppery tang of the blood tragically spilled in these very corridors, and the heavy, cloying sweetness of the desperate incense from the hollow prayers. Every fierce gust of wind that whips around the battlements now feels distinctly like Lady Eleanor's mournful sigh, a sorrowful lament carried on the currents. Every deep, structural creak from the crumbling north tower sounds precisely like her silent, enduring protest. You distinctly remember the icy touch against your neck, the profound, unearthly cold radiating from her spectral presence, and now, finally, you understand why. It was the cold of her brutal murder, the cold of a calculated betrayal, the cold of a hidden, unmourned grave. You carry that inescapable cold within you now, not just on your skin, but in your very marrow, a constant, unyielding reminder, a heavy, undeniable truth that has fused itself to your soul. This is no longer the innocent, predictable discomfort of winter, a mere hardship to be stoically endured. This is an intimate, knowing cold, a chilling understanding that has seeped into every fiber of your being. It's the cold of deep conspiracy, of a terrible imposed silence, of a forgotten life demanding justice. You might be clad in thick wool and gleaming steel, but no amount of fabric, no intricate armor can truly shield you from the pervasive, soul-piercing chill of this knowledge. It wraps around your very heart, a constant, brutal echo of the castle's true grim nature, transforming your perception entirely. The familiar cold has evolved from a simple physical reality into a profound, undeniable revelation, a constant companion that will never truly leave you. And as you stand on the exposed battlements, shivering, your gaze fixed on the distant, frozen forest, you understand with absolute clarity that some truths once fully known possess the power to alter everything. The cold remains, constant and utterly unforgiving, but your entire perception of it has shifted, irreversibly. It is no longer just winter's harsh breath. It is the tangible, physical manifestation of a profound, enduring secret. It is a silent, chilling testament to the countless layers of darkness hidden, suppressed, and finally unveiled within these ancient, haunted stones. You don't merely feel the cold now. The bitter wind, a perpetual companion, swirls around you on the battlements, but its bite no longer feels merely physical. The cold that has seeped into your bones, the one that clung to the damp earth, the very breath of Lady Eleanor is now a familiar integral part of your being. You stand on the ancient stone, your spear resting heavily in your hand, its familiar weight a testament to your original duty. But your purpose has shifted. You are no longer just a guard of these walls. You are the guardian of a truth, a keeper of a guardian's secret. You look towards the North Tower, its crumbling silhouette against the gray, reluctant dawn sky no longer a source of dread, but of solemn understanding. Lady Eleanor's tragic tale, once hidden in dusty chronicles, now breathes through the very stone, a profound sorrow you intimately share. You feel the faint, cold whisper of her presence, not as a terrifying specter, but as a silent ally, a shared burden that unites you across centuries. The chill radiating from her unseen vigil is a constant reminder of the injustice, a call to a duty far deeper than any sworn oath to a living lord. The metallic tang of old blood, the reek of betrayal, the dry dust of forgotten truths, the hollow echoes of unanswered prayers, they all coalesce within you. Every sensation, every sound, every terrifying glimpse from the long night has woven itself into a tapestry of undeniable reality, a hidden history that you alone now bear witness to. Your chainmail, once a chafing discomfort, now feels like a sacred skin, a silent promise to the wronged. It is not just steel. It is a shield for the truth you carry, a heavy mantle for the secret you guard. You take a deep breath, the frigid air burning in your lungs, carrying the ghostly scent of beeswax and frankincense, a futile attempt to sanctify what is inherently corrupt. You close your eyes for a moment, and you can almost feel the carved word, betrayed, from the dungeon pressing against your soul, a silent scream that you have finally heard. Lord Gareth's chilling command to forget echoes, but it has lost its power. How can you forget a truth that has become fused to your very essence? You open your eyes, your gaze unwavering as it sweeps across the vast, waking castle. The mundane sounds of morning life begin to stir. The distant clang of a bell, the low murmur of voices from the mess hall, but they sound muted, almost inconsequential, against the profound internal resonance of your new purpose. You are a sentinel, not just against visible foes, but against the insidious darkness that festers within. You are a living conduit, a silent witness, to the enduring pain of a ghost who simply wants her truth to be known. And as the first pale light of day finally touches the frosted battlements, painting the world in hues of silver and gray, you realize your path has irrevocably changed. You are bound to Lady Eleanor's secret, a living guardian for a guardian spirit. The castle's dark secret isn't just a story told in whispers. It is a sacred trust, a hidden duty that you now carry in your heart. You prayed not to see a ghost. and perhaps you never truly wanted to. But now that you have seen, and more importantly understood, you are forever intertwined with its profound, unyielding truth, a silent testament against the relentless tide of oblivion. Your vigil has transformed from fear into an unwavering, quiet resolve, a solitary promise against the enduring darkness.